Hello, and thank you for taking time this weekend to join us here on KREM 2 News. I'm Cody Proctor, and this is the KREM 2 News Weekend Review. We know life gets busy, and it can be tough to keep up with all the news. So let's get you updated on some of the headlines from this past week.
Along Fifth Avenue today,
No ICE! No KKK! No fascist USA!
Lewis and Clark High School students walked out of school exercising their First Amendment right
No ICE! No KKK! No fascist USA!
to speak out against ICE and in solidarity with victims of ICE abuse like Renee Good, who was shot by an ICE agent in Minnesota.
Fun fact, this movement started Thursday at lunch.
Ava Swigart, the organizer of today's demonstration of chanting and making posters, says this is a way students across Spokane can show the community that the younger generation is not checked out about what's happening around the world and deserve to be heard since they are the future.
Students at the school are fired up and they're angry and they want to do something about the injustices that we see in our world. And so it makes perfect sense that this has spread like wildfire.
She says students from 6 different schools across the area joined in today's walkout with close to 1,500 estimated participants.
Just a lot of happiness.
Even community members like Koila Domf, who showed up to not just support his younger sister, but her classmates as well.
This leads to more people their age just educating themselves and educating their friends.
A day standing in solidarity.
I think it's so important to have students come out and share their voice because this is our future.
Bringing hope to LC senior Ella Fuladi for the world she's inheriting.
Coming together and showing kindness and love and unity is the most important thing.
Of course, there's going to be naysayers. There always is. But it's important to recognize that they're human too, and they have just as many rights as we do, and just because they may have different opinions doesn't mean that they're any less valued.
Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
It's a period of rebuilding for the Shoshone County Sheriff's Office after that December 26th shooting. Now, Sheriff William Eddy tells me the department is back open, though services remain limited. A quiet Wallace Street and melting snow mark a sharp contrast compared to 3 weeks ago. Changes include a new way to enter the Shoshone County Sheriff's Office with locked doors and a phone to buzz people in.
It's been a rally from, within the community, and everybody wants to know why, but unfortunately we probably never will know that.
The office is once again open after a shooting at the sheriff's office that injured 3 people and ended with police killing the suspect, John Drake.
It's nice, though, to be moving forward, and we got some improvements to do in the lobby.
But what's left behind is bullet holes and a heightened sense of security.
Do your job, go as it happens, and then worry about your emotions afterwards,
Sheriff William Eddy tells me cleanup is underway. Right now, only the driver's license office is open.
We had to wait in the lobby one at a time, so the lobby's not done, so we waited outside for a bit, but it was very nice. I mean, it was easy, walked right in. They're still doing remodeling inside, that's why, but no, I felt very safe and secure in there.
With a red phone to call in. Sheriff Eddy says he had been sheriff just over a month when the standoff occurred after the abrupt exit of Sheriff Holly Lindsay amid an off-duty crash and a failed levy in November. He says he's pushing forward to rebuild the department.
You got to get moving forward, we can't keep dwelling on the past.
Eddy noted recovery from the shooting is just one challenge. Other priorities include jail upgrades, hiring and training deputies, and closing budget gaps without a sheriff's levy. Above all, he says the next 6 months will focus on rebuilding community trust and restoring a sense of safety.
That's my number one goal, is making sure that everybody's safe here. So, and people that come in here, that they feel safe.
As of now, there is no updated timeline on when the office will open in its entirety. Sheriff William Eddy does say that the office is not suitable for the public just yet. For now, I'm reporting in Wallace, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
As we go to break, here's a check of your forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Before we get back to this week's headlines, we want to remind you, you can get the latest news and weather forecast anytime you want on KREM 2 Plus. It's our streaming app you can watch on your TV, and best of all, it's free. We hope you'll check it out, but now let's get back to the Week in Review.
Here off of Alki, as you can see behind me, new structures are going up as part of the North-South Corridor project. WashDOT says you'll continue to see more progress in the next couple of months.
We'll be elevated through this entire stretch, so it'll be a lot of upward movement that people will see in the coming years as well.
Ryan Overton with WashDOT says that these columns that are going up are part of the structure needed to build above the city of Spokane, as these renderings show.
And we actually have to go up over the top of Freya Street with the Stage 2 project. So that'll be a huge undertaking. We'll be over 50 feet in the air as we go over the BNSF, Union Pacific tracks, and then come back down to where it connects at SEC, and of course the ramps down to the Trent Avenue interchange.
The Inland Empire Electrical Training Center is located near the construction site. One of their instructors says he remembers hearing about the North-South Corridor project while he was a student in the same program.
We've been looking at this project coming up for a long time, since I went through this program probably 12 years ago, and we actually thought the building was going to be, allocated as part of the freeway construction. We're kind of excited to see it finished.
Overall, local businesses say they've seen minimal impact since it's an industrial area. But the finished corridor will not only improve commutes and reduce the strain of traffic in the city, it's creating jobs too.
There's a lot of skilled trades that are getting opportunities for jobs here, and we even have apprentices at our program that have worked on these road projects. So we appreciate the benefits that it provides to them and the jobs that it provides.
WashDOT says that 2027 is when they start the final phase connecting to I-90. The project is expected to be completed in 2030. In Spokane, Caitlin Galloway, KREM 2 News.
Things may be clear now just outside Spokane City Hall, but just hours ago, it wasn't, both outside and inside the building.
We will not put up with ICE!
Monday night for the Spokane City Council meeting started with chants from protesters against ICE. While inside, 3 members of the City Council were sworn in, incumbent Zach Sapone and freshman council members Kate Tellis and Sarah Dixit. A short ceremony before a long meeting. One item initially on the agenda, a ban on the sale and distribution of kratom, ended up being deferred until February, to the surprise of some public commenters.
Hi, I signed up for the kratom, so I will sign up for February.
Kratom is described as a psychoactive drug derived from plants, but the city's concerned about a concentrated synthetic version, often sold in convenience or health stores. It can cause a stimulant effect like caffeine in small amounts, but higher doses can have an opioid-like effect. Another heated topic of the night, whether or not to accept a $1 million grant from the U.S. Department of Justice to hire 8 new police officers. The grant comes with conditions, including one to not prohibit or restrict the federal government from getting and sharing immigration status info. The conditions gave council members pause.
We cannot do it if it's going to put us in a situation where we will potentially have these dollars clawed back and potentially be sanctioned in order and not able to access other dollars.
I think it makes sense for us to have pause when it comes to these dollars, especially if we don't really know what we're on the hook for.
The City Council also had a final reading to recognize the importance of cultural celebrations such as Martin Luther King Jr. Day and Juneteenth. The move comes in light of the federal government taking those holidays off the free admission days for national parks. The ordinance passed 6-1. In Spokane, Cody Proctor, KREM 2 News.
Today, a Spokane County judge sentenced the suspect Sarah Beal to 24 months of community custody. Now, this means that Beal will not have to go to prison, but she will have to comply with ongoing treatments, mental health evaluations, and possible community service. In August, the Spokane Valley Fire Department reported between 11 and 16 small suspicious fires along the Centennial Trail. Investigators say at the time of the incident, they found a large amount of pillow filling, a box of matches, a burnt match, and hairspray in a purse that belonged to Beal, alleging that Beal started the fires. The prosecuting attorney and the public defender in a joint recommendation proposed an alternative mental health recommendation stating Sarah Beal is living with mental illness.
As you can see, there's a rather robust record indicating Ms. Beal's mental illness. She had been 1077 early on in the case. She went through a restoration period, and then she spent a substantial amount of time in custody.
The judge approved the recommendation, saying Beal's mental illness caused the incident, and added that chemical dependency was a factor in the incident. The judge clarified if Beal does not comply with monitoring and mental health evaluations, the judge has the power to terminate the community custody and put Beal in prison.
This opportunity is conditioned on you doing what you're supposed to be doing. Because if you're not, I don't take any joy in it, but, I'll terminate it and then it'll be prison sentence.
The judge also ordered Beal will have to pay about $5,400 in restitution to the Department of Natural Resources. Those payments will begin in May and will be $5 per month. For now, I'm reporting in Spokane, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
Thank you for watching the KREM 2 News Week in Review. I'm Cody Proctor. It's been a busy week all across the Inland Northwest, so let's help catch you up on some stories you might have missed.
Idaho won't raise taxes to balance the state budget.
Strong words from Idaho Governor Brad Little as he delivered his State of the State address at the Idaho State Capitol Monday night as he kicked off this year's legislative session. In it, he advocated for fewer taxes despite a projected state budget deficit of nearly $50 million in 2026, as well as more than $500 million by 2027. He says a rise in people moving to the Gem State is a major contribution to the state facing financial setbacks.
Rapid population growth, business expansion, and one-time federal funds to a period ahead that demands restraint.
Governor Little says that restraint includes a 3% budget cut across multiple state agencies annually through the Idaho Act, passed in August of 2025 to address budget shortfalls. He projects this will help save roughly $120 million. He also suggests removing $275 million in the Strategic Initiatives Fund for Idaho's Transportation Department and to lower Medicaid provider reimbursement rate cuts by 4%. This, Governor Little proposes, will help save $45 million. He says the sooner tough budgetary decisions are made, the better.
Responsible leadership means acting early, not waiting for challenges to grow.
Despite the cuts to ITD and state agencies, Governor Little says education funding for public schools won't be touched. In fact, he echoed expansions to school resources across the state, saying those won't change in 2026.
We made historic investments in school facilities that also served as property tax relief, and we added more discretionary funding so schools can stay flexible and responsible to local needs.
He says it'll take time for the state to get out of this year's projected deficit, but adds these cuts are reflective of federal cuts made through President Donald Trump's legislation and believes this model will be the best way for the state to financially operate.
Our Enduring Idaho Plan makes way for Idaho to conform to the Trump tax cuts achieved through the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Democratic leaders from the House and Senate say they are working on this Millionaire's tax proposal. They do expect it to come up for debate here this session. Governor Bob Ferguson lists that as one of his many hopes for this session that he wants to make historic. Governors are required to address House and Senate members every year. Governor Bob Ferguson's theme for 2026, history. He pointed to the recent historic floods, highlighting how communities, first responders, and the state rallied to help each other.
It's that heart and spirit of our people that allows me to report today that the state of our state remains strong.
He blames the state's current deficit partially on federal policies and budget cuts from the Trump administration. Ferguson is calling for historic investments in transportation, billions for road construction and maintenance, and new ferries. He wants to increase funding for new housing, too, and says that can all be done without new taxes this year. But looking forward, he's calling for a new tax because for too long, he says, the state has relied on the poorest residents to pay the highest taxes.
That's not fair, that's not right, and that's why I'm calling for something truly historic, a millionaire's tax.
And if there's anybody in this state that doesn't think that that's going to trickle on down to them and be a broad-based income tax.
Republicans are skeptical the tax would only impact millionaires. Leaders in the House and Senate say none of their members would support it, and they don't think the public wants it either.
This is a pretty big deal to just trot out after 100 years of saying it's unconstitutional, the people don't like it, 11 times and counting, and we're going to run it through over the top of the people in a short 60-day session. That just seems like a stretch to me.
Governor Bob Ferguson says he will not sign any millionaire's tax into law unless it is made clear that that threshold can never drop below the millionaire's level. In Olympia, Drew Mickelson, KREM 2 News.
Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we have one more story you might have missed this past week.
This legislative session, lawmakers will decide if law enforcement officials will need new requirements to take on their position through Senate Bill 5974. According to the bill, background checks for police chiefs or town marshals in Washington state haven't been updated since 1987. Candidates would be required to submit a background check to Washington State Patrol 6 months before the filing deadline. It also requires a sheriff to uphold the state constitution and its laws and prevents law enforcement from not enforcing state laws they deem unconstitutional. An example of this is a lawsuit filed by the state attorney general's office back in March of 2025 against the Adams County Sheriff's Office. The lawsuit said for several years, Adams County deputies shared information to federal immigration officers, arguing federal immigration laws allowed them to do so. This, the suit argued, conflicted with the Keep Washington Working Act passed in 2019, which is a state law that restricts the role local law enforcement has on federal immigration laws. A part of the legislation drawing attention from several sheriffs in the Inland Northwest is the requirement of an approval by the Criminal Justice Training Commission. This bill would require background checks to be approved by the state commission, as well as going to WSP for approval, and the commission could remove top law enforcement if they fail to follow certification rules. This is sparking several law enforcement agencies across the state to voice their opposition to the bill becoming law. The Stevens County Sheriff's Office posted to Facebook commenting on the bill, saying in part it is, quote, taking away the rights of the voters to decide who their sheriff should be and whether they should be removed for misconduct, end quote. Additionally, the Adams County Sheriff's Office posted to Facebook saying it, quote, would expand the involvement of state executive offices, including the Office of the Attorney General, in matters traditionally addressed at the county level. The current limitations on that authority exist to maintain a balance of power and to protect the independence of locally elected officials, end quote. Right now, the bill has been introduced to the Senate and is in committee waiting to move forward. Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Thank you for joining us for the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Be sure to keep it here for more news and weather updates throughout the weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.